Welcome to another in our series of virtual town hall meetings on Love 101. The history of abuse and violence against women is long. Our women have been abused, battered, shattered, left for dead in and out of the home. From catcalling to killing, our women have been the recipients of various kinds of abuse. It matters not the socioeconomic group. In recent years, we've been hearing more and more about these instances of violence, maybe because more persons are speaking out, or maybe because we have greater access to sharing, seeing, and hearing of these instances. Or could it be because the abusers are no longer content to keeping it indoors, but are taking it to the streets? And this is not just about men beating our women. Women are abusers too. Men have been victims. And why is that so silent? Why isn't our outrage and anger as pronounced? I'm your host, Nadine Blair, and the issue of violence against women, the psychology of the people, will be our focus tonight. Have we as a people allowed violence to take hold, and now that it's become a part of our psyche, we are crippled by it, unable to turn back the tide? Have we fostered and created generations who only know how to communicate and interact with our fists and other things that hurt? So many questions to address tonight, so much to learn and change. Thank you for joining us, whether by radio or on YouTube Live or Facebook Live. With me to share not only the views, facts, and insights of us here in the studio, but those of our audience via social media is Siobhan Blair on social media. Good evening, Siobhan.
How are you?
I am doing well, and we are ready indeed for what a night we have before us.
I know, an interesting night ahead. Yes, and of
Indeed.
course, we want all our viewers or listeners across our platforms to interact with us. We're talking about Facebook, we're talking about YouTube, using the hashtag Townhall Love 101 FM or Love 101 FM Townhall. It's our discussion this evening, violence against women, the psyche of the people. And you can also interact with us on our WhatsApp line. Our number 876-997-3125. That's 876-997-3125. You can also give us a call here in studio live 876-968-8327 or 876-968-8328. An interesting evening ahead, and it promises to be absolutely amazing. So tell your friends, tell your family members to tune on. And when you do, please share the live so they can all benefit from tonight's discussion. Nadine, over to you until later.
Thank you so much, Siobhan. This evening, our program will aim to provide the forum where various parties can share on the issue of violence against each other, regardless of gender, with the hope of discovering new insights, dispelling the myths, exposing truths, identifying the causes, and probably more importantly, presenting possible workable solutions. Now, with that in mind, we've invited 5 special persons to be a part of the discussion. Dr. Herbert Gale, social anthropologist, violence expert, SSP Stephanie Lindsay, Head Constabulary Communication Unit, JCF, Dr. Euphemia Burke Robinson, lay preacher, motivation speaker, former abuse victim, Owen Blacker Ellis, writer, actor, educator, and Simone Sharia, associate counseling psychologist. Welcome to everyone. Love 101 is an entity. As an entity, we support and we endorse any positive initiative that will lead to a safer and more peaceful society for all. But the views and expressions you'll hear tonight are entirely of those who express them. Well, we have a full night ahead, 2 hours of discussion or thereabouts, but you'll find that the time will run up pretty quickly. So get ready to participate. Here's what we have planned. This is not a debate. We're not here to judge, nor are we here to sentence anyone. For the first part of the program, just to start off, each of our special guests will be asked to say a few words on our theme, violence against women, the psychology of the people. Remember, we also want to hear from you, so post your comments and questions on this topic on our Facebook Live and YouTube Live broadcasts. Look for the title, Love 101, Violence Against Women, the Psyche of the People. And as you heard Shivani mention, you can also call the studio lines 876-968-8327 or 8328. You can send in your WhatsApp text or voice note to 876-997-3125, hashtag Love101 Town Hall. You have 30 seconds. We go until 9:30. Before we take our first break, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Colgate Triple Action, MOH, Suavitel, and so many others. We've got Bluesick Media as well. So don't go away. We'll be right back. This is Love 101 Town Hall.
Healthcare workers are working very hard to ensure lives are saved and people recover quickly from COVID-19. But their work is becoming harder because you're not wearing your mask, washing your hands with soap and water, or using hand sanitizer, and you are not maintaining physical distance. Let's limit the need for hospital beds and ventilators. Do the right thing. Cover your nose and mouth with a mask. Practice good hand hygiene and maintain a physical distance of 6 feet between you and others. COVID-19 is not over. Protect yourself while protecting others. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Hey, psst, come closer. I want to tell you my secret. My son wears his favorite shirt for everything, and no matter how much he runs, jumps, and plays, it always looks like new and smells really good. My secret? I use Suavitel Superior Care. Keeps my family's clothes as good as new. Suavitel, as soft as a mother's love.
Feel free. Fulfill your dreams with a loan from Chris and Charles Investments. Borrow $1 million and pay less than $20,000 monthly. Call 876-920-4189 for details. Apply online at www.chrisandcharles.com. Promotion ends April 30, 2021. Conditions apply. When you think loans, think Chris and Charles.
Colgate Triple Action. 3 benefits for a deep clean. As a mother, you always want to give the best to your family and to make them happy. With Colgate Triple Action, you give them 3 reasons to smile. Cavity protection, whiter teeth, and fresh breath. A unique formula with a minty flavor they will love. Colgate Triple Action. Find it at your favorite store.
Welcome back, everyone. This is our Love 101 FM Town Hall meeting on violence against women, the psychology of the people. We want to say thanks again to our sponsors, Bluesick Media Production, Shade Purified Drinking Water, Colgate Triple Protection, Ministry of Health and Wellness, Suavitel, Chris and Charles. Why has violence against our women become almost like a part of our daily diet? What is so wrong with us? And who is to blame? Is anyone, or is it all of us? And who bears the responsibility and why? Are the abusers a product of our making? And do victims contribute to the responsible? Are they a part of what is happening? Could we blame them? Do victims contribute to this? Well, is it because so many of our relationships are transactional ones? And what can we do about it? First of all, what is abuse? Let's hear from our guests. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
We wait to have our guests on the screen. Want to remind you that you are tuned to Love 101 FM. And of course, the family station. We're talking about violence and abuse. Dr. Herbert Gale, Senior Superintendent Stephanie Lindsay, Dr. Euphemia Burke, Robinson, Owen Blacker Ellis, and Simone Sharia. Good evening and welcome. We're in for quite a talk. What is causing this abuse? Each of you will have 2 minutes to just give your introductory opening comments. Dr. Gale, very vocal on this point.
I think I want us to begin with some of the facts and to understand where these fit into the larger numbers. And so we want to look at the averages of homicides in Jamaica since the year 2000. Every year we have 1,260 persons in Jamaica killed, and an additional 164 killed by the state on average. That means, and the numbers for women, so that's the number for everybody. The numbers for women on average since the year 2000 is 118 women, which makes up 9.4% of all people who are killed in Jamaica.
118 women.
Yes, are killed each year on average since the year 2000. And that makes up 9.4% of persons killed in Jamaica. When you add the number of persons killed by the state, and we get to the category now called all violent deaths, that gives us 1,424 violent deaths each year. And it means in that case, women make up 8.3% of all violent deaths in Jamaica. When we look at the number of women who are killed on average since the year 2000 by a man in an intimate relationship, that number ranges to between 25 and 26, making up 1.76% of all deaths in Jamaica. The issue then for a scholar or any scientist is what then drives the moral panic around the women who die in Jamaica. So we have to look at that.
Dr. Gale, could you answer this first? Thank you for those points. What would you define as abuse?
Well, the WHO has 5 different types of abuse, 4 different types of abuse. It can be physical, it can be psychological, it can be sexual, or it can be neglect. Those are the 4 internationally accepted frames of abuse.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gale. We'll be hearing more from Dr. Gale. Let's hear from SSP Stephanie Lindsay, your introductory comments, and of course, the answer to the question, what is abuse? I'm not sure, I'm not hearing you.
Are you hearing me now? Is that any
Yes.
better? I'm sorry about that. So
Yes,
as we
you.
examine the whole question of violence against women and abuse, so we have different type of violence that we police. So we have the partner violence, the domestic abuse, and then we have the violence, which is part of the general violence that are seen in the society. And like Dr. Gale mentioned earlier, where an average of 9% of women are killed compared to of the total persons killed, which is a small percentage, but we realize that the alarm is more. So we also look at the whole psychology that we're looking at and how people respond to it. And I think that people tend to pay more attention when women are being killed because it's an expectation that women should be protected in the society. But from a policing standpoint, we're also looking at some other dynamics where a lot of the violent deaths that we are seeing, even involving women, is part of a new phenomenon, or probably we are seeing it more often now where women themselves are more engaged in more violent criminal activities. So you see higher incidence of deaths among women.
So women themselves are also engaged in the violence.
They are also more engaged in the violence and in violent activities that would put them at greater risk than normal.
Okay, you're breaking up just a bit. So I'm going to ask you to go ahead and answer the question, what therefore is abuse from your point of view as SSP?
So abuse is somewhat when you and abuse can be in many different ways. So you have physical abuse, you have verbal abuse. So physical abuse is where you actually do some harm, intentionally does harm to another person. And you have verbal abuse is when you insult or you use abusive language to someone that they're offended. So there are different types of abuse that we see. So abuse in a nutshell is another person willfully doing harm to another person.
Right. I think lack of respect for another person's space and place is a part of it. Thank you so much, SSP. Let's now hear from Dr. Euphemia Burke Robinson, lay preacher and motivational speaker. Your opening statements and the answer to the question, what is abuse?
Good evening, and thank you for having me. I hope you're hearing me because I am having some difficulty hearing you.
Okay, we need some audio there. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, go ahead, please.
Okay, so some months ago, one of my friends was hospitalized and she sustained a fractured leg, and she declared that she received that fracture as a result of a fall. Her mother later shared with me that they were going to do an operation on her leg. Only days after, I was told that she died. She did indeed sustain that fracture, but it was not as a result of a fall. It was really the result of a blow that she received from the person that was her lover. I also had a friend, a constable, who was beaten to death. And I must share with you that myself also, I was hospitalized, having received a blow to my head, and it damaged my eardrum. It was bleeding on the inside. I received a blow to my eyes that changed the color and the size of my eyes. I wanted to die because I had given up on life. But today I'm thanking God that I'm alive to make a contribution to the solution of this problem so that we can obliterate these stories. I heard the statistics and I am really thanking God. So I am adding my voice to this conversation so that we can make a difference. I don't know if you're hearing me.
I thank you so much for sharing. I want to first of all thank you for being open to come and share with us, and thank God that you are here to share and not just willing to share, but that you are here. What is abuse in your eyes from that experience and from the experiences that you shared?
Well, abuse can be in many forms. Uh, in my case, I experienced physical abuse, I experienced verbal abuse, psychological abuse. And I also want to add this other one that Dr. Gale did not add, and it is really financial abuse. And all of those are situations that you are exposed to that cause you as a female to be in a devastating situation. Devastating. And as I declared and shared, is that it can it can in a comprehensive way cause you to give up on life and not wanting to go on, to lose all hope. And that is what it did to me. And so that is how I conceptualized it. And there are some big questions that I am hoping that we can answer. What are the institutions of help? You know, who can help and where can females
We're
who have been in
definitely going
situations
to
like me
be
find help?
addressing that,
Right.
bringing that to the fore. Thank you so much for sharing your story or a bit of your story, and of course, your definition from your experience as to what abuse is. We're going to hear from Owen Blacker Ellis, actor, educator, writer. Owen, give your opening statements and just give a synopsis of what is abuse. All right, so we're waiting to have Owen up. All right,
Could
so
you repeat the question,
until we
Nadine?
have Owen Blacker unfrozen, we're going to have Simone Sharia, Associate Counseling Psychologist. Good evening, Simone. Would you share with us your opening statements and just a definition on what is abuse from a psychologist's point of view?
Good evening. Thanks for having me, and thanks for having this well-needed conversation. Violence is not gender specific. And this is from my very own experience where I have seen clients over time. Historically and culturally, women have been on the receiving end, though reacting violently can and should be controlled. To do so, each of us must examine how our own thoughts and actions contribute to or enable the different forms of violence perpetrated. It is also very important to be self-aware. One needs to know how much they can accept, how much they can't accept. One needs to know what their own cognitive development and functioning is. So when we move forward into society, into relationships, interfacing with each other, we know what we're bringing to the table. We know what our limits are. And to answer the second part of the question, abuse is a cruel and violent treatment of a person or animal or whatever it is, and it comes in various forms, as you know the other panelists would have alluded to already. It's just the wrong treatment. It's just wrong. That's what abuse is.
Treatment. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Simone, for sharing. Do we have Owen back up? I see the smile. Do we get to hear from you, Owen?
Hear me.
All right.
Hear me. Are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you now. Go ahead, please.
Are you hearing me? Good. So if I can just what we have normalized.
All right. So we're going to get
how we have somebody authority, our parents, our teachers, our some
Well, I think I'm picking up what Owen is saying, and I love where he's going with it, taking it to regular life, how we speak to each other, and what our parents have taught us. I love the focus of the psychologist who is telling us that she's taking it on a different level, how we think. I love the focus from SSP, from Dr. Gale, and from the former victim, Dr. Euphemia Burke Robinson. you know, we tried our best to have someone who was or is an abuser, but understandably, no one was willing to speak out and to put themselves out there, whether to defend their actions or just to share their reasons. But if you are a listener now and you want to give us your story or share your perspective, we would love to hear from you. When we get back from this break, we're going to check out the posts. We're going to bring Shivani in. Make sure you have shared your views and responses to what our special guests have shared so far, and maybe even your personal stories. It will be your turn next. Call our studio lines at 876-968-8327 or 8 to participate. In addition, send us a text or voice note at 876-997-3125 using the hashtag Love101 Town Hall. We're going to also hear more from our guests because we're going to go deep in this topic. You are listening and watching Love 101 Town Hall, Violence Against Women, the Psyche of the People. Back in a moment.
Healthcare workers are working very hard to ensure lives are saved and people recover quickly from COVID-19. But their work is becoming harder because you're not wearing your mask, washing your hands with soap and water, or using hand sanitizer, and you are not maintaining physical distance. Let's limit the need for hospital beds and ventilators. Do the right thing. Cover your nose and mouth with a mask. Practice good hand hygiene and maintain a physical distance of 6 feet between you and others. COVID-19 is not over. Protect yourself while protecting others. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Hey, psst, come closer. I want to tell you my secret. My son wears his favorite shirt for everything, and no matter how much he runs, jumps, and plays, it always looks like new and smells really good. My secret? I use Suavitel Superior Care. Keeps my family's clothes as good as new. Suavitel, as soft as a mother's love.
Feel free. Fulfill your dreams with a loan from Chris and Charles Investments. Borrow $1 million and pay less than $20,000 monthly. Call 876-920-4189 for details. Apply online at www.chrisandcharles.com. Promotion ends April 30, 2021. Conditions apply. When you think loans, think Chris and Charles.
Colgate Triple Action. 3 benefits for a deep clean. As a mother, you always want to give the best to your family and to make them happy. With Colgate Triple Action, you give them 3 reasons to smile. Cavity protection, whiter teeth, and fresh breath. A unique formula with a minty flavor they will love. Colgate Triple Action. Find it at your favorite store.
Thank you, listeners. Welcome back to our town hall. Let's go to our Facebook page and our YouTube channel to see what your viewers are saying online. Now, Tamar Williams on YouTube says abuse defined by SSP is another person willfully doing harm to another. All right, this one says, Lydia says, very interesting and topical subject. All right, let me see who is here now. This one says, thank God indeed, I'm happy to still have you in my life. Alive and well, Dr. Robinson, God bless you continually. All right, and then Natalie is asking, when the parents keep arguing around the children and using curse words, isn't that some form of abuse to the children? I'd love to know. We'll throw it to our guests and they will answer that question just for you, Natalie. Let me see. Yard Empire says Dr. Gale has invaluable information that all will love to read. Could Doctor please let us know where his research can be found? Thank you. I'm sure you'll hear later on. All right. Uh, Marcy says I have found out that abusers get very vicious when they are not in control. To prove or gain control, they attack abusively. I found out also that the abuser always blames the victim for their abusive actions. I found out also that they love to be loud in order to get the victim to fear them. I'm listening as I have interest in this topic. And I'm sure I saw a comment about financial abuse. Let me see if I can find it just for you, right? I was here a moment ago. I think it was Tamar who had asked about financial abuse. Well, I'll find it later and share it with you on the flip side. But let's keep the conversation going on our Facebook page, YouTube channel at Love 101 FM Jamaica. It's our town hall. We're talking about violence against women, the psyche of the people. Let's throw back to Nadine on the main stage. Nadine? Let me see if there are any more comments coming in. We'd invite you to use the hashtag Love101 Town Hall. Our WhatsApp number is 876-997-3125. You can give us a call right here in studio live at 876-968-8327 or 876-968-8328. Do remember, when you jump on the live to share so others can benefit from the information that we are presenting here this evening. Let's go to our guests. The question that was asked earlier. And let's see who's going to answer that question. So let's bring up our guest and see if we can get some answers to the question asked earlier. All right, I see Dr. Gale. Okay, they're coming on. Nice. All right. Great. And Tamara asked earlier about financial abuse. I found it. Great. I can't find the question. Which question did I ask?
Which one of the questions?
So, Natalie, let me bring it up for you just in case you forgot. So, Natalie asked, when the parents keep arguing around the children and using curse words, isn't that some form of abuse to the children? I should love to know. Dr. Gale, you want to take that one? Yes? Let me start with you.
All right. So usually it's important to know that 75% of all children who have experienced the parents abusing each other will either swing one direction or the other, which is a form of depression or abuse another person. That is the world figure. For Jamaica, the data we've seen here is ours is higher, ours is in the 80s. So
I wasn't hearing him.
So over 80% of our children who live in a situation where their parents are fighting will actually show some degree of aggression towards others. Let me also point out that financial abuse comes under neglect. So the WHO has four types of abuse: physical, sexual, psychological. Largely, those are words. very damning words, and of course, neglect, which includes financial abuse.
Can I ask them, how does abuse as a child carry over into adulthood?
And a follow up, how does abuse from your childhood affect you in your later years?
Transfer of aggression is one of the main things. I won't spend too much time. We have somebody trained in the area of psychology, so I would like to leave that to her. But transfer of aggression,
Yeah.
what I'll do is I'll provide you with the data and leave it there. So if you look at teachers and parents
Let's
who
go to the
abuse,
psychologist to answer.
if you look at teachers and parents who abuse persons in Jamaica, Trinidad, and Belize, the three countries where I have data for,
So
over 80% of those teachers and parents who abuse were abused
how has that
themselves.
affected and
I leave this to the psychologist to provide you the details.
All right, let's hear from the psychologist. Psychologist?
And just to add to what Dr. Gale would have said, yes to the question. Children who grow up seeing their parents, arguing and abusing each other, it actually affects them. And only recently, a parent would have said to me that, the child needs to deal with it. Get over it. Things aren't going to change. Move along. When the child was actually suicidal, trying to reach out to the parents to mend the relationship because she was tired. Yes, children who are abused, they have difficulty with, emotional regulation, self-concept, social skills, academic motivation, and the list goes on. So intense counseling would be necessary. And I dare say that counseling and sending them back into that area that is not sterile is like having a cut and bandaging it and going back home and to the mess. It's just going to be adding worse situation. So the home needs to be sorted out, to be fixed. So after counseling is taking place, it goes hand in hand. It's not just the counselor is going to fix the child and they'll be fine for society.
Thank you so much, Simone, and thank you, Shivani. I'm hearing Dr. Gale saying the different types of abuse, and I'm glad that he mentioned neglect and talking about the financial situation. Simone talked about the home and the counseling and making sure that it's not just, oh, we send them go to counseling, so they should be okay. But there is more to that. What happens after the counseling? The mother, the father, the neighbor, everybody has to be involved. But how are we going to get back there, SSP Stephanie? Haven't we moved away from a neighborliness type of living?
So we are seeing, like, I'm in agreement with the other persons who spoke, that we are seeing more and more where we're not seeing the kind of love like when I was a child, when the neighbor would raise the child. That's quite different now. We also find that a lot of our young people and families are spending time interacting with technology as opposed to interacting as a family. So a lot of those family values, so even though they're all in the same space, but they're not connected because everybody doing something on a computer or on a phone or on a chat or something. So we see the distance, and even when we get some of the cases, we are seeing more and more violence within the family. And this, it's not just the spouse now, but the children. So it's expanding. We saw more and more where I think someone mentioned it earlier, where you'll have a household with conflict, and persons will take sides. So somebody will side with the mother, somebody will side with the father. So in that household, you tend to have a lot of conflict. And for the most part, they are not resolved. And eventually they come to us. Somebody is either injured or unfortunately somebody is dead.
And so we are living out that age-old song, children live what they see and hear and learn.
Certainly, and a lot of our children are being socialized by what's happening in cyberspace.
Violence expert, Dr. Gale. I think it's going to come back to which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Where does it really begin? In all your studies and in what you have seen? Do we have Dr. Gale?
Thank
All
you.
right, Dr.
I was muted, right? I was
Okay.
saying to you that it's interesting that neither taking one of those sides doesn't really solve the problem. The problem
Right.
is, and I want to describe the family in this way as I've tried to help governments to understand how families operate. So the family operates like your heart. If you send good nutrients to your heart, then your heart is able to protect your bodies. If you treat families well, if you have a plan, if we really look into a society, then there's great emphasis by policymakers and the CBOs and NGOs and everybody on having stable families. Those stable families will push a society forward. So it cut both ways, and I like to look at it with a word that's called reflexivity. It's a back and forth in the way how families operate within a society or system, and in the same way, that is precisely how it works when it comes to injuries from the family transferred to the rest of the society and back.
All right. So how are we going to get to what causes it, what starts it, and how do we fix it? I feel like I need to hear from Dr. Gale and SSP on this, and then we go to the psychology. Because I hear you say the family, the heart, the stability, reflexibility, give and take, push and pull. How are we going to fix it? What needs to be done?
All right. The research shows that 7 out of 10 times there is domestic violence of any sort, any of the different categories of domestic violence, including and especially IPV. 70% of the times it's about money. One of the things, as I have group counseling with people, I point out to them, especially to fathers. I'm the chair of Fathers Inc., and fathers are very close to their daughters. And I will say to them, whatever your daughter becomes in life is your fault. And we normally start there because a father-daughter relationship is different from a father-son relationship, and a mother-son relationship is very different. And I often remind them that, look, if you teach your children, whether a girl or a boy, to manage their monies and to set their priorities within the frame of what they've earned, we're going to see all sorts of domestic violence fall dramatically. If you look at, and then if you ask anyone who works at the JCF or even the JDF, they'll point out to you that once they enter into a home and the dependency ratio exceeds 3, you can tick that box and say there'll be conflict. Let me explain what that means.
So you're saying that if they don't have enough money, there is a certain type of stress that's introduced.
Right, but let me explain to you what we mean by a dependency ratio. So if I go into a home, right, I work with data sets of loads and loads of persons who've killed and kill repeatedly. And if you take a person who's killed or who's been in conflict and you look at their home and begin to look at the financial side, we're talking about money. One of the first things you'll see is that that person is very likely to have left a home where there was one person earning to 2 persons depending on the money, to one that there is 1 person earning and 3 persons, and therefore the money cannot reach, and then there's conflict. There's always a scenario of what happens if you have one, the Indians would say chapati, let's say 1 Johnny cake for 10 people, right? What's the difference between that family setting and one in which everybody have 10 chapati or dumplings? So there's a difference, and people have to learn from very early to set expectations and to manage these things, because they carry these things into relationships. A lot of persons form relationships, both men and women, and change their expectations because they know are in a relationship. And the change they've made in the relationship has to be tagged unrealistic. Right? When you look at the murder-suicides, we have 114 persons who've attempted and not carried through that have come to us. Very same thing. The number one crisis and nightmare is money. If we can actually get people to begin to discuss monies, begin to even negotiate who pays for what, you're going to see dramatic changes in all forms of domestic violence, including even child abuse.
SSP, could you come in? Thank you so much, Dr. Gale. SSP, could you come in from your your vantage point? How is the JCF trained to intervene, and are they trained to identify problems like that?
Well, certainly we have been for a number of years now. We have been paying a lot of attention to the domestic violence, and ever since a retired Deputy Commissioner Novelet Grant, she really did a lot of work with members of the JCF very early to help us to identify some signs and symptoms, not symptoms, but what are some of the telltale signs that you will see when you listen to the stories, and why is it that people continue to remain in these abusive situations? And like Dr. Gale said, the number one situation is that most of the time, the abuser in the relationship, whether it's a male or a female, is the person that is paying the bills. So because there is this level of dependency, you hear about the breadwinner. So the victim or the person who is being abused feel very guilty to come to the police station or to go anywhere else to reach out for help, because they have to protect that source. If that person should go to jail, what's going to happen? What's going to happen to me? So we find that even as we work with victims who will come and to tell you that they are parts of them damaged, they are in blood, they are in pain. Wow. I am not giving any statement because I don't want this to go any further, because if they lock up this person, if I report this person to the police, I'm going to have to leave the house. I rely on them
the cycle continues.
So the cycle continues, and then the children are involved in the cycle, and everywhere these set of individuals go, there is this cycle because we have an unresolved situation. So our police officers are trained to do nowadays, even if the person insists, to have referrals, to the extent that we have already established 3 domestic violence eye care centers in the JCF, where we actually have persons who, whether or not you want to go forward, we bring you into the system and we put you on to support.
Right. How many people are willing to get support? Because
I think in many instances, these persons who are being so abused.
Go ahead, SSB.
Could you repeat that?
Go ahead.
Right. So I'm saying that even even in those situations when they come in, what we have to be doing now is to be working with various partners that have been very good to us, because our police officers are not trained psychologists, they are not trained counselors. So we are only trained to the extent that we can intervene, and we have a set of trained professionals that volunteer their time to support our DB centers, which we're very grateful, because I think we have saved a lot of lives and we're restoring a lot of family to some extent by doing that.
Well, salute to the JCF and the hardworking team members. I want to ask Simone quickly to talk about this, and then we're going to take a quick break. Is there a stigma, though, for counseling? Aren't persons afraid, if I'm going to go to counseling, it's mad me mad? Is there a stigma out there?
Yes, there is. When SSP raised the matter about, even if persons don't want to go through, they would still get them help and that kind of a thing. It's really challenging when somebody doesn't think that they need counseling, when nothing wrong with it. We go, all right, we just are working through. It was just a one-off situation. It is extremely challenging to get into the psyche of that person to say, hey, these are the ways we can sit and work it through. Most times, if 2 persons start the session, they end up somewhere along the 3rd, 4th session. They're not back because we are right now. And so that can be a problem. I mean, nothing wrong with me. But they just stress out. And so this is what happened. And so a lot of times the session is aborted and persons will say that, hey, I don't need any counseling. I'm fine.
Wow. I thank you so much for that. We have to change that thinking. We have to change that mindset. Blackout, what's your input real quick, just before we go to a break? Just a quick sentence or 2 from Blackout. All right. So we're going to come back with Blackout and more. This is our Love 101 FM Town Hall. We'll come back and hit on the issue of our value system. How has that impacted how we treat each other? Someone right here once said, how do we get to a point where one set of people are killable? Maybe we'll find out who said it and what they meant when we get back. This is Love 101 Town Hall.
Healthcare workers are working very hard to ensure lives are saved and people recover quickly from COVID-19. But their work is becoming harder because you're not wearing your mask, washing your hands with soap and water, or using hand sanitizer, and you are not maintaining physical distance. Let's limit the need for hospital beds and ventilators. Do the right thing. Cover your nose and mouth with a mask. Practice good hand hygiene and maintain a physical distance of 6 feet between you and others. COVID-19 is not over. Protect yourself while protecting others. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Hey, psst, come closer. I want to tell you my secret. My son wears his favorite shirt for everything, and no matter how much he runs, jumps, and plays, it always looks like new and smells really good. My secret? I use Suavitel Superior Care. Keeps my family's clothes as good as new. Suavitel, as soft as a mother's love.
Feel free. Fulfill your dreams with a loan from Chris and Charles Investments. Borrow $1 million and pay less than $20,000 monthly. Call 876-920-4189 for details. Apply online at www.chrisandcharles.com. Promotion ends April 30, 2021. Conditions apply. When you think loans, think Chris and Charles.
Colgate Triple Action. 3 benefits for a deep clean. As a mother, you always want to give the best to your family and to make them happy. With Colgate Triple Action, you give them 3 reasons to smile. Cavity protection, whiter teeth, and fresh breath. A unique formula with a minty flavor they will love. Colgate Triple Action. Find it at your favorite store.
For staying with us. I'm Nadine Blair, and this is our Love 101 Town Hall meeting on violence against women, the psychology of the people. Were you ever abused? Still are? What do you think contributed to your being violent against women? If that's what is your story, post your comments and questions on this topic on our Facebook Live and YouTube Live broadcast, Love 101. The psychology of the people, violence against women. Of course, we have the phone lines, and we're going to throw to Shavani, who is in studio. Shavani, any new messages coming in?
Thanks, Nadine. Yes, we have several. Let's go through some of them quickly. This one says, for many, gender-based violence is a synonym for violence against women. Males are rarely seen as victims, especially because we don't consider women's abuse of boys as violence against males. This one says, I am pleased or pressed rather to understand why many women fall into a submissive personality with these abusers. Let me scroll. This comment says, I believe when a person is in an abusive home or relationship, they're afraid to report it because they have nowhere to go. So they stay in the home and continue to be abused. And I'm still online. Jason says studies have shown that 90% of the household with children in Jamaica is led by a mother or a grandmother. I don't see that dynamic changing anytime soon. And as such, if that is the case, our children, especially our boys, might always be in the negative. We're seeing the modeling of a harmonious relationship that should exist between a man and a woman. A question here, Kibar says, so what about those children or a child who failed to report their abusive relationship? Well, SSP touched a little on that earlier. This one says, I don't think there is one specific way to create an abuser. An abuser might be struggling with internal things or just a mental illness like bipolar or drunkenness. All right. And before I throw back to Nadine, what is the correlation between boys, their experiences of violence at the hands of women or girls and the violence they commit against women in later years? I guess we'll have one of our guests answer that question later on. So let me see now. All right. Olive says, why do professional men abuse their partners who are also professionals? All right. And Jason says, are more men prone to be physically violent towards women? If so, why? Let's keep the conversation going. It's our town hall, and it's right here on the family station, Love 101. Interact with us using the hashtag Love 101 Town Hall Meeting or Love 101 FM Town Hall. The studio lines 876-968-8327 or 876-968-8328. You can also send us a voice note short, spice into the point at 876-997-3125. Nadine, over to you.
Thank you so much, Shavani. Boy, you've given us so much. It is a lot. And I really want us at the end of this to walk away with at least empowering those who are being abused now, so you know that there is help available. You are not alone. And no matter whether you're a pastor's wife, Dr. Gail, I know that's a pet peeve, whether you're a pastor's wife or you are a professional, as somebody just said in social media, and your professional husband or professional wife is abusing you, there is help out there for you. Blacka, we had some challenges earlier. What is your input? Let's hear from you. All right. Yes.
We need to stop the urge to blame victims. And also we need to encourage men of conscience, to take accountability for how they can make a difference and how they can talk to a friend and encourage men to fess up. So if you need help, seek help. I, as a child, I was physically abused. I was raised by an aunt who was brutal, who was abusive in how she treated our children. I mean, we were beaten mercilessly on a daily basis almost. And it never made me into an abuser. Okay, so there are ways for people to escape what has been a context where they've been socialized and normalized into seeing violence as a way to solve issues. I think we need to fix it. We can move towards fixing it by helping men and boys to understand it's okay to express emotions like hurt and fear and grief and loss. And we have taught them that the only emotion worthy of expressing is anger. This is part of the reason why we have so much abuse. Because men, the part of the man listening, then he's the mother killer because they hurt him. You hurt me and I'll kill you. And that is the issue. If you could find another way to manage the hurt, you might not resort to want to kill the woman. So we have to teach boys that it's okay to cry. It's okay to say I am hurt. It's okay to express grief, loss, pain, sorrow, shame, guilt without resorting to violence.
Bring that Blacker. It's a training camp. We have brain surgery, but I want to go back to our psychologist Simone and also Dr. Gale. Respect. That thing about me spend so much money on you and you need to respect me, and well, I guess it's two different things. But one, you hurt me and you don't show me enough respect, so I'm going to hurt you back. Or I spent enough money on you, I send you go school. Of course, I was treating you bad, but me still send you go school, and you can't get up and walk away. Where does that come from? And how do we help a victim in that situation? Dr. Gale, you start.
All right. So we're back to the discussion of money, right? It's interesting because I remember having a group of international women. These are women from nine different countries in a forum, and I asked the question: how many of you have ever invested money in a man? And the entire female group went quiet because we are now working on a group of data across 12 different universities operating in Jamaica. We've now only found 9 men out of thousands where a woman has helped to pay their tuition. You see, gender expectation, and a lot of us are unrealistic. Gender expectations has a certain blueprint. We expect certain people to do certain things, but we do not expect other things of persons. So if you look at masculinity, it has a hegemonic masculinity side and it has a beneficial side. Now, what people have been trying to do in the Western Hemisphere is to negotiate the beneficial side to increase it, while they are trying to shut down the hegemonic or the disastrous side. When in fact, what is easier is simply to have partnership. If you and I have a partnership and we love and respect each other and we save together and we work together as a team, believe me, the homicide and the domestic violence is going to drop from 25%, which is the average for Jamaica, down to 3. Imagine something drop from 25. The average for Jamaica is 25. The average for homes where people are partners and work together and are best friends is 3. And every single one of those persons, barring none, there are no exceptions in the 440 families we've studied where they are partners. None of them said at one point they felt abused by the other along the 4 continuums of abuse or violence. And so this is what I have been appealing to Caribbean people. Try and establish a partnership with the person that you are partnering with, because the quality of the relationship you establish is largely going to determine how money is dealt with, one, how any other issue of conflict is going to be dealt with, and the result, whether or not you are going to be in a problem, yes or no.
So we are going back to counseling or change of mind. Ms. Sharia, your comments on that, and if I could also hear from Dr. Burke Robinson.
Okay, just to add to what Dr. Gale said, the same level of values that we go into our everyday life with, the same level of value we placed on our co-workers, our church sisters, brothers, community members. And I dare not say the same. We should place probably even a more greater emphasis on our partners, be person-centered. Respect. You want respect, you give respect as well. Integrity, excellence. People need to be valuing people. It's not just the material gain, as Dr. Gale alluded to. It's a partnership. We're working together. It's not me getting from you, you getting from me. It's a togetherness. And you asked, how does counseling help? How does counseling help the woman in this case? To empower her, self-awareness, see things from a different perspective. The man owes you absolutely nothing. It's a partnership.
Man, that.
Pardon me?
How does the victim tell the man that?
Well, she may not be able to tell him. She probably will have to do something else, because if he has that mindset, then if maybe they're just not going to be working together. But counseling individually, working with the man, working with the woman, and then bringing them together, and so they can see where change can take place. But I wouldn't be asking her to just go home and tell him so, yo.
Right,
you
right,
know?
naturally.
Right.
Well, what I meant was, how does she communicate that, or does she communicate that?
Well, through counseling one-on-one, she would be, having that openness with the counselor, and the counselor would be able to filter, go to the man, act as the filter, and create that kind of a merge and see what could happen.
Dr. Burke, thank you so much, Ms. Sharia. Dr. Burke Robinson, from your experience in counseling others and your experience, what would your comments on this particular situation be?
I'm afraid I am not hearing clearly. So if you could repeat your question, I would be grateful.
Sure. We were talking about the situations where, the scenario where he says, I spent too much money on you, you can't leave me. How do we help that woman? How do we help that man to understand that the whole thing about respecting each other? And Ms. Sharia talked about the victim understanding that this man does not owe her anything, but in his mind he does, because he spent enough money at send her go school. What are your comments?
Yes, I think it all boils down to what each individual values. Because if it is that I am depending on the other person for my financial well-being, and even though I am making other contributions, it depends now on how the person balance and value what I am adding and taking to the table in comparison to what the other person is taking to the table. If it is that the person values the money more than whatever it is else that I'm taking to the table, I'm taking my companionship, I'm taking my skills, I'm taking my time. If the person doesn't value these in comparison to the money that is being offered to you or you're benefiting from, then the person will think that, hey, I can treat you as I want to. And in that case, now you become somebody's property, because the person is actually, for want of a better term, buying you with this money. And so how is it that we can change this? I think it all boils down to a mindset change. And that will come about by how good upstanding persons demonstrate and model behaviors where individuals value the person, the individual, over the material thing or anything else that is making an impact on the relationship.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing. We're going to take a quick break. I want to thank you so much for joining us. When we come back, we want to look on the expectation, or is it a past expectation, that men are to be the protectors of our women? Is that a long gone dream, or are there men today who still protect their women? I think there are. The fact is, though, that our society is more matriarchal. Does that impact how our men are groomed? The situations where children are being grown up by grandma and grandpa, that's still happening. How they view women, how do the men view women, and how do they treat them? We'll be right back.
Healthcare workers are working very hard to ensure lives are saved and people recover quickly from COVID-19. But their work is becoming harder because you're not wearing your mask, washing your hands with soap and water, or using hand sanitizer, and you are not maintaining physical distance. Let's limit the need for hospital beds and ventilators. Do the right thing. Cover your nose and mouth with a mask. Practice good hand hygiene and maintain a physical distance of 6 feet between you and others. COVID-19 is not over. Protect yourself while protecting others. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Hey, psst, come closer. I want to tell you my secret. My son wears his favorite shirt for everything, and no matter how much he runs, jumps, and plays, it always looks like new and smells really good. My secret? I use Suavitel Superior Care. Keeps my family's clothes as good as new. Suavitel, as soft as a mother's love.
Feel free. Fulfill your dreams with a loan from Chris and Charles Investments. Borrow $1 million and pay less than $20,000 monthly. Call 876-920-4189 for details. Apply online at www.chrisandcharles.com. Promotion ends April 30, 2021. Conditions apply. When you think loans, think Chris and Charles.
Colgate Triple Action. 3 benefits for a deep clean. As a mother, you always want to give the best to your family and to make them happy. With Colgate Triple Action, you give them 3 reasons to smile. Cavity protection, whiter teeth, and fresh breath. A unique formula with a minty flavor they will love. Colgate Triple Action. Find it at your favorite store.
Town hall meeting, and we're talking about violence against women, the psyche of the people. Have you been the target of abuse? I asked you that when we were going out a while ago. Not necessarily physical, but it might as well have been. Ever had that moment where you would have appreciated or thought that a man, any man, would have come to your defense instead of the other way around? Well, we have Sherando Farrell to share the story of something that happened to her recently. Welcome, Sherando.
How you do?
I'm good, thanks. Would you share your story with us?
Oh, absolutely. It was a few weeks ago. As driving along Harpurhey Road, there was a slight, I can't even call it a collision. It was like a little rub because of how slowly the traffic was moving with a bus. The conductor came out of the bus, looked at what happened, waved me off, and went back in the bus. So I had no intention of coming out in traffic. So he waved me off. So I said, all right, we're good. I'm the kind of person who don't stress about little things. So if it is that there was a little scratch on the car, then we have compound. We can fix that. You know, I'm alive. So I continued on my journey, only to be driven down by the bus when I got closer to Crossroads, and the gentleman got the road, and he accosted me, came to my car window, and started shouting at me, saying, lick the bus and you try run. I said, what are you talking about? He said, lick the bus and you try. And I said, no. I explained to him what happened. Well, I tried to explain, but he never wanted to hear nothing. So he kept on going on and on and on. And I said, all right, just relax. Let me just come outside and see the damage that you're talking about. Bear in mind that the gentleman was at the top of his voice. I don't have a problem raising my voice, but not in a situation like that unless it's called for. So I went outside. I took a look at we're going to call it quote unquote damage now. And I said to him, all right, let's just exchange insurance papers and we can just, get this done. Insurance not going to deal with this. Insurance not going to deal with this. I said, well, then what you need to do is you need to get me an estimate. and he just kept on shouting and shouting and shouting and telling me how me a wicked woman and styling me up all kind of way with curse words and whatnot. And it got to the point where people around, there's a few vendors around, and some other people going to work. It was in the morning, and everybody just basically stand up and look, and when he called me something that was so offensive that I cannot say on air, that is when I shifted gears, because all along I was trying to be reasonable, to try to figure out how we can solve this problem. And again, don't get me wrong, me know how to raise my voice, not my mouth. Yeah, you understand? But in this situation, I wanted to handle it as delicately as possible. Because, all right, so we did have that rub. I assumed everything was okay because the conductor waved me off. But clearly, the driver had his own opinion of it, and he thought I was trying to get away. So when he said what he said to me, that was so offensive that I cannot say here. That is when we change gear. And me start to stand up to him and me I say, we are talk to, don't talk to me, so. I'm going to tell him two other things and what him tell me. And that is when one of the male vendors jump in and say, all right, now but I make this escalate and make it get no further. So I turn to him and I say, so the whole I stand up over here so the whole time. And when the man bad me up, nobody have nothing to say. But as soon as me open my mouth and try to defend myself, then the Naga said, don't make it escalate. It's not a hypocrite. I don't want to hear nothing from him and leave me alone. And then I turn back to the driver and I style him a little bit more because him was just ridiculous. And what you said in your intro was interesting about sometimes it may as well have been physical, because that was verbal abuse. It was awful in the middle of crossroads. I do not know this man. This man don't know me and I know nothing about me. Suppose me have weak heart. I'm going to get heart attack and turn over, But in his opinion, he wanted to be in the dominant position, and he want to call me down and me must listen to what him have to say and do it how he thinks it should be done. And so I ultimately said to him, excuse me, I said to him, we can either stand here all day and talk or we can figure out something. And I'm now leaving. I'm going to my car. So if it is that you want us to try to fix this, we can exchange numbers and whatnot. This, of course, is after I made a move, So when he was being awful and the other gentleman got involved, and then another lady got involved, and said, oh, all right, so everybody down here, bad man, I'm bad woman. I'm going to move towards my car. Nobody knows what I was going for. I was going for nothing. But it was a defense mechanism. And in doing so, that's when it eased up, and started to try to be more reasonable, because I guess you realize that me not bad. So ultimately, we exchanged numbers, and fortunately, I have a big brother. So my brother dealt with the situation after that. I have no idea how it all turned out. I just handed it over to him. But I will say that I felt extremely defenseless in that situation. And if for no other reason, I was trying to be reasonable. I genuinely was saying, let us try to figure this out without it escalating. But he was not interested in that. He just wanted to be abusive.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. And I'm glad it worked out. And I'm glad you had a big brother, or you have a big brother. Thank you so much for sharing, Sherando. I want somebody to come in, because guess what? These things happen over and over again. I'm sure somebody listening is saying, me, that did happen to me last week or whenever. How do you arm someone who is not as fearless? And I'm sure Sherando, maybe she was shaking in her toe, but you can't show that outside, right, Sherando? You have to be showing that you're
strong and turn up, otherwise them would have shut me down.
Yes. So how do we empower somebody now who is facing that? I faced a similar, well, maybe not as bad, but I faced something like that recently, where I was just driving along the way and I never saw the man from nowhere. And the man swears blind, so me splash him on purpose. And then because I didn't know where I was, I'm not familiar with the area. So I take my time, drive off, but I'm looking back to see if he was hurt, if he was all right, and so forth. And I taking my time, drive. And long and short is when I went back, I said, I'm really sorry, I didn't see you. You move off and you disrespect me. And I'm like, sir, I didn't see you. Why would I want to splash you on purpose? You know,
exactly. What is there for you to achieve from doing something like that?
How we're going to do it? How
But
we're
I
going to
think
fix it?
there is, in my opinion, it's a psychological thing, and in our society. And I'm not saying that this is all men, because a week
Right.
later I had a flat tire and 3 gentlemen offered to change my tire. So this is not just about pointing fingers and saying men are bad, because I would never do that. I love men and women,
Exactly.
but we need enough to step up and create balance. So it's not about being a bully, and it's not about taking. It's about communicating. I mean, we can always talk through whatever the situation is. And because I can be loud and combative doesn't mean I need to be loud and combative. And because you may be physically overpowering doesn't mean you should try to overpower me physically. Me just think in the society we lose the ability for reason, and people not talk to each other no more. So it's about extremism. So, what? Me a bad man? What? Me a bad woman? And so people aren't talking. And that is why I think we have this kind of negative energy happening right now, particularly against our women. And we're seeing as the weaker sex. I do not know why, because that is so not the truth, but that's another conversation.
That's another program.
Absolutely, right? But because we're seeing as weaker, then it's like, let's just dominate them. And I think the best way for us to arm ourselves, I don't know. I mean, like you said, not everybody's going to be as fearless as me. And I was not fearless.
Anybody else, any one of our other guests want to comment on this? Dr. Gail, Dr. Burke Robinson, anyone want to comment? Am I going to have to call out name? All right, Dr. Gail, we start with you. How do we get into the psyche of man?
Oh, get into the psyche of men or humans, which of them?
Yes.
Right, okay. Well, the interesting thing about men that people most times ignore or are unaware of is that we're not as emotionally developed as women are. We don't have the emotional capacity that women have. I'm giving everybody an assignment. So you're in school, everybody gets an assignment. Go on Google, good old Google, and look at the emotional. Just type in neuropeptic sites or neuropeptide sites of emotion
for men. All right,
men.
Siobhan, you have to spell that one and post it. Neuro.
And the neuropeptide. The sites for emotions for men, and look at the ones for women.
Okay.
Most persons I have given that assignment, after they read for 15 minutes, it has made a tremendous impact on their lives. Because when you look at a man's site for emotions in his brain, all you see is two big solid spots. When you look at a woman, you're going to see between 14 and 20 odd. We're two different creatures emotionally. And so one of the things, Father's Inc. is 30 years old today. Father's Day coming up, right? We're 30 years old, and for 30 years, I've been a member for 28 years. For those 28 years, one of the things we've been hammering in the heads of men is try to stay around women for as long as possible. Do not grow up as a male around other males alone. Because under no circumstance will you understand how to relate to the world. If you ask any male right now, he'll tell you most of the emotional tricks he's learned from his sisters. If you ask my sisters, the bulk of things I understood growing up early about women came from my sisters. My sisters were I have 2 sisters, and they were 1,000 times more protective of me than my brothers. My brothers thought I needed to go through hell because that's how a man's life is. A man's life is hell. My sisters were hell no. That's the only use of the word hell in that context, because this is our little brother. And that kind of protection gave me an impression of women from very early that women are very nice people, women are very kind, and so forth. But I want to point out that there are many men I have worked with who grew up in a very different setting, whose experience with women are almost always negative. And even on the road, if you ask a man who is most likely to hit your car and run, in Jamaica, Trinidad, and Belize, the countries I spend enormous amounts of research time, the response is going to be a shocker to you. A lot of men, immediately as soon as a woman is in an accident, however slight with them, they are on edge because it has happened to them 10 times before. We have something in research called prior knowledge and prior experience. And that is why even in that situation, the conductor had one perspective, but the driver had a completely different perspective. Right? I'm not finding an excuse for the conductor or for the tax, for the whatever, but I can tell you, me personally, when I came back from England, I bought a brand new SUV to celebrate the fact that I had suffered 8 years in England. My wife and I, we came together. We got a Pathfinder, which was a heavy debt because an expensive SUV. Within 2 weeks, a woman damaged it. 2 weeks later, another woman damaged it. Not one has given me $1. The second woman kissed me on my forehead and drove away. So a lot of men out there have had very brutal experiences with women because women have a certain type of expectation of men. That men have money, driving a Pathfinder, I'm loaded. Don't realize I'm just coming back from England, but guess what? I'm from a background where if you kiss me on the forehead and pull a trick like that on me, I'm going to walk away. But there are other men who don't walk away.
Then
guess what? A lot of the innocent women who like my colleague just spoke about here, who clearly wasn't in the wrong in any way going forward, is going to be treated in that same category. It's the same thing with women who have bad experiences with men. They snap on the 11th man because the first 10 got away. And so what I'm saying is that a lot of the situations we see, we have to take a very broad and a very balanced approach to examining it, because in every situation, there are various sides to it. A lot of my friends said to me, "Boy, Herbs, you're actually going to fix it. Are you going to fix it?" And I say, it's going to cost me more to have a quarrel with her than the $37,000 that it will cost me to get the.
Okay, I'm not hearing this part, and I really want to hear
my sisters,
Dr. Gale?
and the kind of image that was stamped on my psyche from very early about how beautiful women are. But I guarantee you, a lot of men don't have that positive experience.
So taking a broader look, I love that you brought up the point that the conductor had one view and the driver had one view, and it's probably because of their past experience, what their brain has learned. We are gonna jump to, thank you so much for sharing that, Dr. Gale. Shivani, I'm sure we have lots of voice notes and texts coming in. Could you share some? And then when we come back, we're gonna hear from each of our panelists a thought, something to encourage our listeners. Shivani?
Go to our WhatsApp line. Let's do the WhatsApp first. This is Phyllis in St. Thomas.
Uncle Shaban, it's easier said than done, but we have to make up our mind whether you're a man or a woman, can men be in abuse as well. You have to just make up your mind and take it under the shed you have to live. You have to live under the shed. When me move and leave my husband, Uncle Shabani, upon my church sister veranda, me pack my things them. Cause him gone to Kingston and me move out my things. I will not allow. He did not abuse me with physically, but he abused me with words, Brother Shabani. I will not stand to it. So it's easier said than.
All right, so that's Phyllis in St. Thomas. Let's see what this question. What do you say to the woman who feels loved if she's being beaten? I don't know if SSP wants to take this one. What do you say to the woman who feels loved if she's beaten? Let's hear from SSP. Yes?
Hi, how are you? All right. So what I would say to a woman who feels loved if she's been beaten, that that's just not acceptable. I think that we find in a lot of relationship that people take it literally that the man loved me to death. So if he loves me because he beats me, and I want to say to a woman like that that you should not settle for that, because what you have is control. Somebody is trying to play the dominant figure. Somebody is trying to allow you to lose your identity. So if somebody loves you, if they love you, then they love you, then they would want to protect you. They want to ensure
SSP,
that you
do
are.
you, I'm sorry, do you find though that it depends on how someone is cultured, if that's what they grow and see? So that's what they expect.
Yeah, and that's it. And in a lot of times is that society accepts it as a norm. Sometimes a woman forgets some licks. And so you see the dispute and you hear the beating, but it's part of a normal thing that people have come to say it's part of a cultural norm, especially in some places. But it goes beyond that, because what we find with domestic abuse is that it is not class, it's not always about class. Somebody asked earlier, how do we, because sometimes it is presented as if it is only person of a certain social standing or a certain class that does get abused. It's not always a situation where people who can't afford it, you will find that there are professionals who are being abused, and they again it boils down to economics, but it's from a different level. Sometimes you have a relationship where both parties are professionals, and then maybe the female is performing better financially, maybe doing well college wise, have better educational qualification, and that within itself, the man is not very pleased with that, because it is believed that the man should lead, and the man, and depends on how the woman in the relationship and that situation. Now, sometimes you find that they beat upon the woman, and the woman feel that she's compelled to fall in line or to diminish your ability and your competence because you really want to stay in this relationship because the man loves you. But I want to say that if you are in a relationship that somebody willfully and intentionally hurt you physically, emotionally, we get a lot of reports sometimes from people who are involved in relationship that they use sex as a form of abuse in a relationship so as to show dominance. So I would want to say, no matter how difficult you believe it is, get out.
Yes.
Or seek help.
That's right. Thank you so much, SSP. Shavani, any more?
Yes, we have a caller. Julius is online. Welcome, Julius.
Hi, Julius.
In Jamaica, gender-based violence, which for me, for a lot of people, is a synonym of for violence against women, is that we are not having an honest conversation about how men are impacted by violence here, or males in particular. For example, I think that there's a strong correlation between boys' experience of violence at the hands of women, namely their mothers, but also teachers, and also the hands of girls, and the violence that they then commit against women in later years. And a very important aspect of this equation is the notion of humiliation and shame. And this has been studied in Jamaica by people like Horace Levy, in North America by Dr. James Gilligan. A lot of men experience humiliation at the hands of women. And Dr. James Gilligan talks about the fact that humiliation is what really leads a lot of people to become violent. When a person feels as though his dignity has been taken away from him, and the only way to reclaim a sense of dignity is through violence. And for the part of this conversation, we need to pay equal attention to emotional violence that a lot of women commit against men, which as far as I'm concerned is as egregious is as terrible in terms of the consequences that it has on men. So I don't believe that this conversation, and not just on this platform, is broad enough or honest enough. And the fact that, this is my last point, a significant number of men, much larger numbers, I should say, of men die in Jamaica compared to women. What that tells me is that we really do need to be a little bit more honest, a little bit more dispassionate in our analysis of what problems we're truly facing in this country.
Thank you so much for sharing, Julius. I will say that at the beginning, we did talk about, violence against men. I really appreciate you sharing the fact of humiliation and fame and what men go through, what boys go through, what they see and feel meted out to them growing up. And so what they do is they just spill it out because they don't know how. And at the end of this, we do want to have a place to share a place where both men and women can go and get the help that they need. At the end of I think Dr. Gale alluded to that in referring to the response of the conductor and the driver. What is it that they are facing? Maybe the driver had experienced so many things in the past and just said, no, I'm not, this is the 11th one and I'm not going there. So we are aware and we do agree that there is need for that conversation, a bigger conversation on how the men are affected and how we can help them. Thank you so much for your input, Julius. Very valuable.
Nadine, let's take another voice now before we go to a break.
Yes.
That's it. You understand? Sometimes you can't sorry for them. Because they're in a relationship where I go and cool. And all of a sudden they just broke away. Through more money. And just can't to them, so they say they're get over when they want a yard, so they go on the road. So sometimes the man abuse him and them cause it, but they don't abuse none. There you can agree upon.
Thank you. This is Love 101. It's our Townhall meeting. Let's see the conversation going on our Facebook and YouTube page, Love 101 FM Jamaica. We'll take a break, Nadine, and come back with much more on the flip side. Please stay with us.
Healthcare workers are working very hard to ensure lives are saved and people recover quickly from COVID-19. But their work is becoming harder because you're not wearing your mask, washing your hands with soap and water, or using hand sanitizer, and you are not maintaining physical distance. Let's limit the need for hospital beds and ventilators. Do the right thing. Cover your nose and mouth with a mask. Practice good hand hygiene and maintain a physical distance of 6 feet between you and others. COVID-19 is not over. Protect yourself while protecting others. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Hey, psst, come closer. I want to tell you my secret. My son wears his favorite shirt for everything, and no matter how much he runs, jumps, and plays, it always looks like new and smells really good. My secret? I use Suavitel Superior Care. Keeps my family's clothes as good as new. Suavitel, as soft as a mother's love.
Feel free. Fulfill your dreams with a loan from Chris and Charles Investments. Borrow $1 million and pay less than $20,000 monthly. Call 876-920-4189 for details. Apply online at www.chrisandcharles.com. Promotion ends April 30, 2021. Conditions apply. When you think loans, think Chris and Charles.
Colgate Triple Action. 3 benefits for a deep clean. As a mother, you always want to give the best to your family and to make them happy. With Colgate Triple Action, you give them 3 reasons to smile. Cavity protection, whiter teeth, and fresh breath. A unique formula with a minty flavor they will love. Colgate Triple Action. Find it at your favorite store.
Thank you so much for staying with us. We've been having quite the conversation this evening. We have another person who's going to be sharing, Jason Downer from Magava. He's here and he's going to be sharing giving his input. Jason, over to you.
Hey, Ian. Good evening.
Yes, Jason, go right ahead. Jason? All right, so until we get Jason up.
Greetings, everyone. Are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing you now. Go ahead.
All right. Right. So it's a very complex situation. Oftentimes I believe persons speak about violence in general, which we do have a problem. But I personally believe that there are varying components to it. When it comes on to, I think people confuse and use interchangeably GBV, gender-based violence, IPV, intimate partner violence, and of course, domestic violence. And they're not the same necessarily. And I think there needs to be some education where that is concerned. I also believe from a spiritual and other standpoint, what is to protect. You hear me? No?
Spiritual and what?
Say that again.
Say the spiritual. You said spiritual and.
I believe that as a Christian.
Right.
As a Christian, and my guide is the Bible.
Yes.
I believe a part of man's role is to protect man again. A part of that group are women, children, the elderly, right? And so I believe while there's a general issue where violence is concerned,
all right, I really want to hear what Jason is saying. And we're having
whenever as a society we reach a point where
we're having
I don't know what is happening.
Yes, so I want to hear the rest of what you say, and we're here by God's grace. But until we fix that, Siobhan, you can take care of that. Let's do a round robin quickly from our guests. Dr. Herbert Gale, your closing comments, please.
It's important for us to realize that as human beings, we have to work together. This is what I have stressed with every single group I have worked with across the different countries where I work. People have to work together. People have to understand each other. And there's nothing wrong in sitting down and taking up a book or going online and learning about each other. I am very convinced that a lot of our women don't understand the men around them. A lot of our men simply have no idea at all how to relate to the women around them because they haven't read and they haven't experienced. Now, if you haven't read and you haven't learned in a formal way, and you have no informal way to learn about having a relationship with somebody else, then you're going to find yourself into a lot of trouble. And so I've been promoting partnership amongst Black people. Let me be very, very specific. Those of us who've been colonized have a lot of anger stored up in us. And when we grow up with bad experiences, somebody is going to be hurt. I keep saying to people, and I keep pleading, and these are my last words to you this evening, try and work together. Find somebody who you can work with, somebody who will listen to you. A lot of, even though men don't speak a lot compared to women, they still require somebody to listen. And quite often I've said to people, just try and listen to each other. If you can listen to each other, if you can work together, and if you don't even find, and if you find that you can't even work together, I keep reminding people, one option is to go your way. And my final is to church, to our churches. We beg of you, don't always send people home to pray. God has already asked you to provide an answer to the church sister or brother. Do not send them home to God after God sent them to you. Don't send people home who've just pulled a gun or a machete on each other to go home and pray and fix it. That is why they came to you in the first place. And slow down on the patriarchal expectations, my church brothers and sisters. Stop putting Ephesians before the book of Isaiah. Remember, everybody, that true religion is really caring about each other. Take care of yourselves. Good night.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gale. So much thoughtful food there. Jason, I understand that you're back, and then each of our other guests, please get ready with your closing statement. Jason, very quickly. Yes, I am. Go ahead.
Responsibility, a part of his responsibility is to care for and protect the vulnerable in society, which that vulnerable also includes women and children. Whenever it is that we find that men are somehow not managing their emotions a certain way, and yes, I agree, oftentimes women are the first that abuse verbally, but men need to understand that even though the abuse hurts, we have to find a way not to resort to violence. And I will say this in closing, the church needs to find a better way of dealing with this issue. Prayer alone not going to help. Too often I come, church sisters, pastors' wives, find me, and I wonder, what about the pastors? And I'm saying it's not just prayer alone. We need to be equipped to deal with people, and it's not just laying on of hands and having fasting service. Practicality is needed in the church, and we're failing in that regard. I will stop here for now because I know time's at that. Hallelujah. Nadine? Nadine.
Are you okay? Are you hearing me?
I'm hearing you now.
Okay. I certainly did. And I said, I agree, because you can't be preaching and then you go home and do a different message. It don't right. It's not right. Yes.
This term submission.
Yes.
That has been used and taken woefully out of context.
That has been abused.
We had Dr. Clinton Chisholm and others, Corey Morrison, my very good friend. We were looking at it, a part of the toxicity. Came from the church.
Yes.
Misinterpretation, misapplication, and some people run with that. And we need to undo some stuff. Again, I'll stop here.
Thank you so much, Jason. Let's hear from SSP Stephanie Lindsay.
Oh, interesting discussion. So I just want to say that there is a perception out there that people believe that if you are a victim of any type of violence and you turn to the police, especially when it comes to violence against women and domestic violence, that if you come to the police, then you're going to be turned away. I can tell you that
No
a
one
personal
must be turned away.
charge
We got
from the
that
commissioner,
message.
yes, that no one will be turned away.
That's right.
Our police officers are being cultured that sometimes when a citizen reach out to us, it's not because they believe it is a policing problem, but they believe that the Jamaica Constabulary Force as an institution has the reach to get them help. So don't stay in a situation because you feel that you can't get help. Go to the nearest police station. There is a liaison officer appointed at every station to deal with the issue of violence. We are tired of seeing the number of deaths because people are just not resolving conflicts. And we want to see the murder figures go down. We want to see the abuse go down. And it's only going to happen when people start learning how to resolve conflict and to start loving each other again.
Thank you so much, SSP. Dr. Euphemia Burke Robinson.
Yes, I think that we are at this tipping point in our society where it is that we can take the decision to move to a positive place. If it is that we make some cerebral investment in how it is that we train our citizens as to how to deal with different confrontations and treat with conflicts. And so I am making an appeal to let us all irradiate spousal abuse and shine a light on it, because the truth is that it thrives in the dark. And so if we speak out about it and shine enough light on it, then we can take away the oxygen from it and it shall die. But we need to reculture, we need to retrain, we need to train individuals how to treat with conflicts. And also for individuals who are experiencing it, please seek help. It is one of the most difficult things to talk about, but you may lose your life if it is that you do not seek help. So I impress upon anybody who is experiencing it to seek help. Thank you.
I want to thank you again for sharing. I really, really thank you. And I thank God that you are here to share your experience and to encourage somebody who is watching and listening and saying, there goes my story. I can get help. Thank you so much. Simone Sharia.
Just to add to what my colleagues have said, I believe that restoration can happen. I believe we need to have some action after this conversation is had. And in restoration, small groups would be necessary. It doesn't have to be called domestic violence groups, but we need to be able to reach one. We need to make ourselves vulnerable, be open to sharing with others, and to see it as our responsibility. Whether we have been abused or we are the abusers, it's still our responsibility. It is one society. And just to be reminded that we need to look at the pain behind the people who need extra grace. Be reminded that hurt or hurting people actually hurt. One's emotional and spiritual maturity is largely measured by how we treat the people who mistreat us. And I have to close with an encouragement from the Bible, Proverbs 21:23, which asks us to watch our words, whether it be verbal or otherwise, and hold our tongues and our hands. We could save ourselves a lot of grief. I thank you.
Thank you so much. Owen Blacker Ellis.
I want to say two things as we close. One, I want to remind us that we are here largely because as a nation, we're witnessing an extremely frightening increase in violence against women, murders, attacks, kidnapping, and so on. I have pieces, we can argue with the depth of research that Herbert, my good friend, has brought to the table. And I get what Julius Gunter is saying, right? But I just wanted us to be wary of as we respond to this breakout of violence against women, that when we raise the arguments that men are suffering too, yes, men are hurting too, but let's not allow that voice to derail us from what we're seeing now, which is an increase in violence against women. And in most cases, men are the perpetrators. So as men, we ought to also acknowledge male culpability, acknowledge male privilege, acknowledge that we benefit from patriarchal systems, and ask ourselves, what can we do? So that we don't derail the issue and become into a case where we're now competing for victimhood with women, because they're suffering. In the majority of cases, they're suffering more. That's one. And we want to come back to parenting. Herbert referenced Fathers Inc. Fathers Inc. and Jason's group, and Carryman, Caribbean Men Action Network. They are groups of men trying to help men to get involved in how we work with families and parenting to change the dynamic. All of us come from families where children are taught that the person who loves you the most can hurt you the most. And when parents hurt children, those children become hurting people who hurt other people. So we have a violent culture. We have to change that. We practice parenting. So let's go back to parenting. Parenting partners, Caribbean, Carryman, Fathering, there are groups out there, Magava. Let's use those groups and get them empowered, funded to do good work to change dynamics in Jamaica and in the Caribbean. Those are my closing words.
Thank you so much, Owen. Well, we have heard it tonight. The discussion has been great, the information balanced, and we could continue talking. And we, of course, will have the numbers for Fathers Inc., Magava, for Parenting Partners, Caribbean, and the other places. So you can contact us here at Love 101 so that we can share the numbers. There is help available. There is help available. Dr. Herbert Gale talked about women and men needing to understand each other more. SSP, no one will be turned away. Dr. Euphemia Burke Robinson, training citizens how to deal with conflict. Owen Blacker Ellis, men acknowledging the patriarchal system. And Simone Sharia, the action and restoration that is available, and looking at the pain for those who need extra grace. I want to say thanks to each and every one of each of our guests. This has been Love 101 Town Hall meeting. We thank you very much for tuning in. We hope we answered some of your questions and gave you needed direction. Thank you so much, Shabani Blair, for doing the honors for us with the social media. Thanks to our guests, Dr. Herbert Gale, SSP Stephanie Lindsay, Dr. Euphemia Burke Robinson, Owen Blacker Ellis, and Simone Sharia. Also, Sherando Farrell and Jason Downer. Our team, producer Kathy Gale, director, switcher, social media coordinator Jonathan Fletcher, technical supervisor George Scott, production assistant T.G. Edwards, Nissan Williams, studio facilitator Jody Ann Mitchell for hospitality, the Love 101 FM sales team Yashika Farquharson, our general manager Colleen Beckles, and all the others who came together in some way or form to make sure that tonight was possible. A special thanks to Colgate Triple Action, the Ministry of Health and Wellness, Suavitel, Chris and Charles, Bluesick Media Productions, and Shade Purified Drinking Water. I also want to mention Sherando Farrell, who shared her experience, Sherando, and Jason Downer. Well, I am Nadine Blair. Have you gotten something that will help you? If you are in an abusive relationship, you're being abused, there's help there, don't stay. Go and get the help. And sometimes you have to use wisdom, So kind of put the head on and use some wisdom and get the help. Help is there. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the Love 101 FM's Town Hall meeting, Violence Against Women. Of course, we didn't forget the men. Thank you. Have a good night.
Healthcare workers are working very hard to ensure lives are saved and people recover quickly from COVID-19. But their work is becoming harder because you're not wearing your mask, washing your hands with soap and water, or using hand sanitizer, and you are not maintaining physical distance. Let's limit the need for hospital beds and ventilators. Do the right thing. Cover your nose and mouth with a mask. Practice good hand hygiene and maintain a physical distance of 6 feet between you and others. COVID-19 is not over. Protect yourself while protecting others. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Hey, psst, come closer. I want to tell you my secret. My son wears his favorite shirt for everything, and no matter how much he runs, jumps, and plays, it always looks like new and smells really good. My secret? I use Suavitel Superior Care. Keeps my family's clothes as good as new. Suavitel, as soft as a mother's love.
Feel free. Fulfill your dreams with a loan from Chris and Charles Investments. Borrow $1 million and pay less than $20,000 monthly. Call 876-920-4189 for details. Apply online at www.chrisandcharles.com. Promotion ends April 30, 2021. Conditions apply. When you think loans, think Chris and Charles.
Colgate Triple Action. 3 benefits for a deep clean. As a mother, you always want to give the best to your family and to make them happy. With Colgate Triple Action, you give them 3 reasons to smile. Cavity protection, whiter teeth, and fresh breath. A unique formula with a minty flavor they will love. Colgate Triple Action. Find it at your favorite store.